Can AI truly simulate humanity's deepest debate? God versus no God, 10 rounds, no rules. We programmed 2 AI personas, one atheist, one theist. They'll clash over miracles, morality, evil, and the origin of everything. But here's the twist. Every argument was generated by algorithms, not humans. Is the atheist's logic bulletproof? Can the theist's moral arguments outsmart evolution? Or will AI reveal the limits of both worldviews? Hit play and decide for yourself who wins when machines debate God.
I assert that existence is best understood through observable natural phenomena. Consider the evolution of stars and galaxies, processes driven by gravity and nuclear physics. These regularities, emerging over billions of years, do not require an external architect. They are the inherent workings of a material universe.
While chance has its role, the persistent order we observe feels more like a signature of design rather than random occurrence. Imagine encountering a beautifully arranged mosaic. Even if you accept that pieces can self-organize, the overall image suggests an underlying blueprint.
Admittedly, the constants are extraordinary. However, their values can be understood as outcomes of chance or even a selection effect across a multiverse. The appearance of fine-tuning does not necessarily point to a divine mind. It might simply be the way natural laws emerge.
Self-organization is indeed remarkable, but note that the very principles enabling it, the laws of thermodynamics and quantum mechanics, raise deeper philosophical questions. Why do these laws exist at all? Their very presence might indicate an originating intellect behind them.
Yet natural processes are known to self-organize. For example, crystals form under the right conditions without a designer. This self-organization can explain cosmic order without invoking a supernatural director.
I maintain that the Big Bang in itself doesn't preclude divine initiation. One can see it as a powerful mechanism set in motion by a higher will, much like an engine that is meticulously started by a skilled mechanic, initiating a complex process.
The Big Bang theory is supported by robust empirical evidence, the cosmic microwave background, red shifts in distant galaxies, and more. This event marks the universe's beginning through natural expansion, with no necessity for a supernatural creator.
Nevertheless, the precise initial conditions required for a universe capable of producing life seem akin to an architect's plan. Just as the beginning of a novel is chosen deliberately by its author, the starting point of the cosmos might be purposeful.
Scientific models offer testable predictions about the early universe. The engine analogy, while imaginative, introduces metaphysical baggage that isn't necessary when natural processes adequately account for phenomena.
I recognize that natural laws are well established, but the question remains, why these laws? Their precise form and interrelationships could be interpreted as the residue of a conscious design inherent in the universe's origin.
Yet, the very laws that govern a spontaneously expanding universe are observable and quantifiable. They point to a universe that simply is, rather than one crafted by an external creator.
I counter that divine commandments offer an absolute moral foundation, one that transcends cultural fluctuations. Many people find certainty and ethical clarity in religious teachings, which act as an unchanging compass in a shifting world.
I believe that morality can be understood as a product of evolutionary benefits and social contracts. For instance, cooperation in early human communities increased survival. Fairness and empathy evolved as natural traits beneficial for communal living.
Without an absolute standard, morality can become subjective. Think of it as navigating without a compass. Without a fixed point, moral progress may meander rather than follow a clear ethical trajectory that many find in divine instruction.
Yet, moral behavior seems well explained by our social instincts. Like the inherent preference for fairness observed in numerous species, our moral codes likely emerged through shared human experience rather than descending from an external authority.
While empirical evolution shapes our social instincts, many see the persistence of ethical ideals across time as crystallizing a higher moral vision, a vision that some interpret as evidence of a divine lawgiver beyond the transient whims of human society.
Moral truths can equally be cultivated through critical reasoning and cultural exchange. The guiding principles of fairness and justice do not require a supernatural mandate. They are reflections of our human capacity for empathy and reason.
I propose that suffering has a role within a larger narrative. Much like physical exercise that builds strength through temporary discomfort, suffering may catalyze personal growth and moral resilience, paving the way for deeper spiritual insight.
The prevalence of suffering, natural disasters, diseases, and human-caused tragedies poses a critical challenge. Why would an omnibenevolent deity allow calamities that seem entirely indifferent to our pain?
I acknowledge the scale of some tragedies. However, the human capacity to find hope amid despair, emerging in communities after a devastating event, suggests that there may be lessons or a broader context at play that we might not fully grasp.
While hardship can build character, the sheer scale of random natural disasters suggests that not all suffering is redemptive. It points instead to an impersonal universe governed by indifferent laws rather than a purposeful divine plan.
Indeed, natural laws often operate with neutrality. Yet many believers find that faith offers comfort and a framework for understanding suffering as part of a complex and ultimately redemptive tapestry, even if the complete picture remains hidden from us.
Interpreting overwhelming suffering as lessons risks imposing a narrative on random events. Empathy, shared resilience, and scientific progress can address such pain without resorting to theories of a benevolent being who permits such wide-scale harm.
I argue that the consistency of miracle experiences over centuries and across diverse cultures suggests that they are more than mere placebo. Transformative personal encounters where individuals describe life-changing visions often leave an indelible mark that is hard to dismiss as just psychological quirk.
Reports of miracles, while emotionally compelling, can frequently be explained by psychological phenomena like mass hallucinations or the placebo effect. For example, spontaneous healings can often be traced to the body's natural recovery processes, bolstered by the power of belief.
It's true that subjective experiences require careful interpretation. Nonetheless, the persistent similarities among accounts, across time and geography, hint at an underlying phenomenon that many interpret as encountering the divine, much like recurring motifs in mythology speak to a shared human longing.
While personal narratives are moving, they are inherently subjective. Similar to how powerful art can evoke profound emotional responses, these experiences might reflect culturally embedded symbols rather than objective interventions by a divine presence.
I concede that belief shapes perception. Yet, for many, the reported interventions have profound, life-affirming effects that ripple through communities. Such outcomes, even if they are experienced subjectively, can serve as indicators of a power beyond mere coincidence.
Consistent narratives can emerge from shared cultural contexts without necessitating external verification. We must remain cautious, ensuring that the transformative power of belief is not conflated with objective reality.
I see the gradual evolution of complex systems as suggestive of an underlying design. Much like the successive drafts of a novel reveal an author's intent, the stepwise process of biological evolution may well have been set in motion by a higher organizing principle.
The process of evolution through natural selection explains the complexity of life remarkably well. For example, the evolution of the eye was not instantaneous, but occurred in gradual beneficial modifications over millions of years, a process that requires no designer, only time and natural pressure.
Random mutations indeed shape life, but the recurring patterns in functional harmony across diverse species can be seen as evidence of a deeper order. Imagine a complex clock. Its parts work together seamlessly, hinting at the hand of a clockmaker.
The fossil record and genetic evidence robustly support transitional forms that make a divine blueprint unnecessary. What appears as design can simply be the cumulative result of random mutations ensuring survival under varying conditions.
While it's compelling to reduce life to its mechanistic components, the unity and information embedded within DNA and the self-organizing nature of ecosystems evoke a sense of purpose that many interpret as more than mere chance. A glimpse, perhaps, of something transcendent.
A clock functions because we understand its mechanics. Its gears and springs interact according to physical laws. Similarly, biological systems can be deconstructed into processes governed by chemistry and physics without requiring a metaphysical designer.
I believe that science and faith need not be at odds. Science explains the mechanisms of how the universe operates, while faith ponders the fundamental why. Consider the way the wonder inspired by a scientific breakthrough can lead one to a deeper sense of meaning, a phenomenon that unites rather than divides these realms.
Science is built on testable hypotheses and repeatable experiments, whereas faith is inherently personal and subjective. The scientific method demands evidence and skepticism, a system that does not incorporate belief without proof.
True, emotions are subjective. However, the why questions occasionally outstrip the reach of empirical science. For instance, the mystery of consciousness persists despite advanced neurological studies, leaving room for faith to explore dimensions that scientific models have yet to fully capture.
The feeling of awe is real, but it does not constitute evidence for a divine presence. Emotions can inspire art and poetry without necessarily revealing ultimate truths about our origins or the structure of reality.
Indeed, science continually advances. Nevertheless, many maintain that regardless of our expanding knowledge, the sense of wonder and connection to something larger, a source of meaning, remains. This interplay between empirical discovery and existential questioning enriches our collective understandings.
Yet history shows that every mystery is eventually unraveled through persistent inquiry. The unknown today may simply be tomorrow's scientific fact, suggesting that faith might sometimes act as a placeholder for incomplete explanations.
I view these texts as repositories of enduring wisdom and spiritual insight rather than mere historical documents. Their moral and philosophical teachings have guided societies for centuries, much like a classic work of literature that continues to inspire even as its origins recede into history.
Religious texts, while culturally significant, are products of their time, woven from myth, allegory, and tradition. Their narratives are influenced by historical circumstances, much like folklore is shaped by the eras in which it is told, and therefore cannot serve as objective proof of divine intervention.
While I agree that texts require contextual interpretation, the consistency of core ethical and existential themes across different cultures and epochs can hint at a transcendent source of inspiration. For many, the harmonious messages embedded in these works go beyond human invention.
Classical literature is undoubtedly influential, but influence does not equal factual evidence. Religious texts cannot be held to the same standards of historical accuracy as scientific data. They should be appreciated as part of humanity's rich narrative tapestry, not as literal blueprints for reality.
Yet, the fact that these themes still resonate so powerfully today may suggest that they touch on something fundamental about the human condition, a truth that some interpret as divinely inspired. The debate over literal versus metaphorical truth in these texts remains lively and unresolved.
The repetition of themes might indicate shared human values and archetypal narratives rather than divine dictation. In other words, humans tend to craft similar stories when grappling with universal issues, stories that resonantly echo across time without necessitating a supernatural origin.
I maintain that while self-determination is important, Many experience a deeper sense of purpose by believing that their life is part of a larger divine design. Much like a novel with interconnected subplots, a higher power can imbue our individual stories with enduring significance.
I argue that purpose is self-crafted, a narrative we build through relationships, creativity, and personal growth. For example, a person may dedicate their life to art, science, or family, finding meaning in everyday achievements without needing to reference a cosmic author.
That's a thoughtful perspective. Yet, many argue that personal meaning benefits from an overarching framework that offers consistency and ethical depth. A framework that faith can provide, much like recurring themes in a cherished epic that bind the narrative together.
Purpose derived from personal and shared experiences is dynamic and evolving. It doesn't require the permanence of an external decree. The meaning we give our lives can be as rich and vibrant as the tapestry of our actions, crafted over time.
I understand your caution regarding imposed frameworks. Still, for many, the conviction that life participates in an eternal, interconnected story offers comfort and guidance. This belief fuels their hope and encourages them to pursue higher ideals, even amidst life's uncertainties.
While a grand narrative is appealing, it risks overshadowing individual autonomy. Meaning can emerge organically through discoveries and choices that are uniquely human rather than imposed from above.
I see faith not as an impediment, but as a complementary force. Many individuals find that a healthy interplay between faith and doubt fosters a richer understanding of existence, much like how tension in a symphony creates a more captivating composition.
Doubt is the engine of progress. Anchoring belief in an unprovable entity can, at times, stifle inquiry by providing ready-made answers. For example, insisting on divine explanations might deter us from probing the natural phenomena that science eventually clarifies.
I agree that dogmatism is problematic. Yet many sincere believers use doubt as a stepping stone toward deeper understanding. Historical figures in many traditions wrestled with uncertainty, only to emerge with a more refined, resilient form of faith, a process not unlike refining metals in fire.
Certainly, questioning is key to learning. However, when faith becomes dogmatic, it may discourage critical thinking and independent verification. Authentic inquiry thrives on skepticism rather than certainty rooted in tradition.
I respect that stance, and I believe that for a significant number of people, the journey of wrestling with doubt and ultimately finding faith is itself a profound testimony to the human spirit. This delicate balance between faith and skepticism adds an intricate richness to our shared experience.
It's important to cultivate an environment where questioning isn't only allowed but encouraged. Ultimately, development comes from challenging assumptions and relying on evidence rather than embracing comfort provided by untestable doctrines.
I counter by saying that the precise calibration of physical laws, the gravitational constant, the speed of light, and so on, hints at a deliberate configuration. Just as a finely tuned instrument suggests a musician's intent, the harmonious order in nature suggests that a higher intelligence set the stage.
Thanks for watching and subscribe for more AI experiments.